So I don't know who needs to hear this, but this is something that God spoke to me over the last couple of days, and I'm sure somebody else can use this as some advice with their situation. Usually on my walk, since the beginning of my walk with Christ, I've always loved when God would show me signs, synchronicities, confirmation about my situation, very specific ones, because oh, sorry, I just seen one that was actually crazy. But yeah, usually on my walk with God, I loved when He would show me signs, confirmation, synchronicities, because in my mind at the time, it proved that, for one, I was really hearing from God because He gave me, specific confirmation, something that I asked Him in the spirit. I never told nobody, I never, spoke out loud. So I knew that God was really talking to me. And it kind of just built up my faith in a way. And over these last couple of days, usually the signs, synchronicities, confirmation that God usually shows me, it sits with my spirit. I love to see them. And lately, I've just been not ignoring them, but just looking at them and kind of just going about my day. Like, if He shows me certain prophetic messages, I kind of just skip past the video. I really don't care to hear those messages anymore. And for a second, I thought it was because, God just wasn't, how your flesh works. You think God isn't here anymore. Like, God, did you leave me? Why am I not paying attention to the messages anymore? Or sometimes I wouldn't even see the signs or confirmation. I'll go a day without seeing much signs or confirmation that I usually do, right? And God had to remind me that His presence is enough, right? And a lot of times when we're in situations to where God is, showing us signs and synchronicity and confirmation, He's doing that in those moments because our faith isn't as strong, right? Our faith isn't, stuck on the foundation of Him. Our discernment isn't strong enough to hear His voice clearly. So we ask God for confirmation. We ask Him for signs, and He's, gracious enough to give those things. But when your faith grows so strong and your discernment grows so strong to where you actually hear God, like He has tested you multiple times and He's seen, okay, she heard my voice. She heard my voice. She heard my voice, right? When He knows that, He's going to allow your awareness to kind of go down to where you're not going to pay attention to the signs as much. Your awareness is just going to kind of, you're going to know the signs are there, but you're not going to care to take hold of them like you did before, right? Like there was a point in time where I was, in a way, like obsessed, let's be honest, obsessed with signs from God. I would see them and I would literally become obsessed. I would be like, I love this. But yeah, there was a point in time where I would be obsessed, let's be honest, because when God first shows you signs and synchronicities, you had that moment to where you become obsessed with it. And now it's kind of like, okay, I see the signs, okay, cool. And God had to remind me that that's because my faith is growing so strong to where I don't need the signs and synchronicities. I don't need to pay attention to them. Like, if I'm not aware of them, it doesn't matter because I know God's voice, right? And He knows that. He knows when you're at that level. Just like a child is learning to walk. When a child is learning to walk, the parent, holds them up until they learn to walk. When that child learns to walk, that parent doesn't need to hold them up anymore, and that's because that child knows how to walk now. It's the same with God. When He knows that He has perfected your faith so strong to where you know how to walk in Christ confidently, and you know that you are hearing from Him without confirmation, without other people telling you, He's not gonna show you as much signs and synchronicities. You're not gonna pay attention to them, right? They're always gonna be there because there's always signs and synchronicities since the beginning of time, right? There's signs and synchronicities from your past that might show up in today's day, all the way from when you were 5 years old. So let's be real, they've always been there, but your awareness of them is kind of just gonna become kind of plain because you don't need them. And again, I don't know who needs to hear that, but I've been struggling with that. The last couple 3 days, not struggling, but just questioning God of like, why do I not care for these signs anymore? I used to love them. And God is just like, that's because you hear my voice. You know that my presence is enough. You don't need a sign for me to tell you that I'm not going to leave you. It's in my word. I told you I would never leave you nor forsake you. You don't need a sign, because there's times where I ask God, like, can you give me a sign to let me know that you're still with me, that I'm still on the right path? And I think sometimes we don't trust ourselves enough to know that we hear from God. We don't trust ourselves enough to know that if God was to convict us, we would feel it. We think that God left us because we're not seeing all the signs and synchronicities. Because there's moments in my life to where every day I would see, multiple signs. And then it just died down to where it's like, all I hear now is God's voice, nothing else. His word and His voice. And that's all you need. So I just want to remind somebody that if you're becoming if you're getting to that point to where the videos that you usually watch, like prophetic messages, even pastors telling you specific things about your life, it just doesn't, you don't really care to take it in anymore. That's because you're so strong in your faith that no one needs to tell you what you already know that God told you, right? Yes, it's good to hear it. It's good to hear that you're on the right track, but if God is specifically, directly telling you, hey, you're on the right track, you don't need anybody else to tell you. You don't need, any signs or confirmation to know that. So again, I don't need to hear that, but I need to hear that to know that God did not leave me. His presence is enough. His word is enough, right? Exactly what he said in his word is enough. I don't need the confirmation. And if you're not as sensitive to the confirmation anymore, it's okay. You don't need signs and synchronicities to know that God is with you.